yourself a lot. Ever wondered why some people just click instantly, stick around because we're breaking down the science of instant sexual chemistry, science, psychology, and secrets you'll wanna know this in every relationship. Don't forget to hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe if this blows your mind. One, sexual chemistry is one of the most misunderstood experiences in human relationship, mostly because people confuse it with attraction and lust or emotional dependency. Psychology explains that the real sexual chemistry isn't loud, rushed, or dramatic. Instead, it's subtle, consistent, and deeply rooted in how two nervous systems respond to each other. When chemistry is real, you don't feel like you're trying to connect. Connection feels like the default state. Your brain releases dopamine not because you're impressed, but because it feels stimulated and safe at the same time. This balance is rare, and that's why sexual chemistry feels so intense yet strangely calming. It doesn't create chaos, it creates a focus. People who experience it often say they feel more themselves around the other person, which is one of the strongest psychological indicators that chemistry is genuine and not just fantasy. Two, one undeniable sign of instant sexual chemistry is effortless presence. You don't need consistent stimulation, jokes, or flirting to keep the interaction alive. Psychology shows that when two people have a strong chemistry, their brains remain engaged even during neutral moments. A silence doesn't feel like a threat. It feels shared. This happens because both individuals perceive each other as emotionally predictable and rewarding. The nervous system stays regulated instead of alert. You're not scanning for rejection or approval. You're simply there. This is why interactions feel smooth and uninterrupted. Even when nothing exciting is happening, presence becomes enough, and that something forced attraction can never replicate. Three, another powerful sign is the mutual emotion chemistry. You don't just wanna be desired, you wanna understand and be understood. Psychology links this to cognitive attraction, which strengthens sexual chemistry far more than a physical appearance alone. When chemistry is strong, conversations naturally delve into thoughts, values, and perspectives without feeling heavy. You listen not to respond, but because their inner world genuinely holds your attention. This kind of curiosity increases emotional bonding, hormones, and deepens attraction over time. It's also why chemistry that includes a manual connection lasts longer than chemistry based purely on excitement or novelty. For strong sexual chemistry also reveals itself through emotional synchronization without planning it. Both people begin matching each other's pace, tone, and emotion in a steady. Psychology refers to this as effective attunement. It happens when two people feel emotionally safe enough to let their guard down. You'll notice that moods align easily and a misunderstanding resolve quickly. There's less need to explain yourself because the other person intuitively gets where you're coming from. This doesn't mean agreement on everything. It means emotional compatibility. When synchronization is present, attention feels playful instead of threatening, and conflict feels manageable instead of destabilizing. 5. Another key sign is the absence of performance. When sexual chemistry is real, you are not trying to impress, dominate, or prove your worth. As psychology shows that perceived mutual attraction reduces ego-driven behavior. You don't exaggerate stories or hide flaws. Authenticity feels more rewarding than approval. This is crucial because fake chemistry often relies on performance, while real chemistry removes the need for it. You feel comfortable showing your real reactions, even if they're not perfect. There's emotional freedom strengthens attraction because the connection is based on reality, not projection. Sex time distortion is a subtle but consistent indicator of strong chemistry. When you're around someone you have instant sexual chemistry with, time seems to move differently. Psychology explains this through increased dopamine and focused attention, which reduce time awareness. Conversations feel shorter than data, and you're often surprised by how much time has passed. This doesn't happen because the interaction is fast-paced, but because it's immersive. Your mind isn't jumping elsewhere; it's anchored in the moment. This kind of focus is difficult to fake and almost impossible to sustain without real chemistry. 7. One of the clearest signs is emotional after effect. After interacting, you don't feel anxious, confused, or emotionally drained. Instead, you feel grounded and clear. Psychology distinguishes real chemistry from anxious attachment by how the nervous system feels afterward. Healthy sexual chemistry leaves you emotionally regulated, not obsessed. The person stays in your mind, but not in a way that disrupts your balance. This calm, lingering presence is often mistaken for boredom, but in reality, it signals security combined with attraction. One of the rarest and most powerful dynamics in human connection. Ahead, like if this is you, comment your vibe and don't forget to subscribe. The best signs are still coming. 8. Another undeniable sign of instant sexual chemistry is how naturally emotional boundaries are respected without being verbally discussed. Psychology explains that when attraction is healthy and mutual, both people intuitively sense each other's limits. There's no rush to escalate, no pressure to prove desire, and no manipulation disguised as passion. Instead, interactions feel paced and initial. You don't feel pushed forward or held back. Things unfold organically. This creates trust, which paradoxically increases a desire when someone respects your emotional and psychological space without being told. Your nervous system registers a safety and attraction depends rather than phase. 9. Eye contact behaves differently when sexual chemistry is real. It's not intense, mean to dominant, and it's not avoidance driven by insecurity. Psychology shows that balanced eye contact reflects emotional confidence and mutual interest. With strong chemistry, eye contact feels grounding. It holds attention without creating discomfort. Moments of silence combined with eye contact feel meaningful rather than awkward. This happens because both people are emotionally present instead of self-conscious. The eyes become a channel of connection, not performance. When eye contact feels natural and steady, chemistry is already established beneath the surface. 10. Playfulness is another psychological marker that separates a real chemistry from forced attraction. When chemistry is strong, humor emerges spontaneously. Teasing feels light, not sharp. Jokes don't aim to impress, they aim to connect. Psychology explains that playfulness increases bonding by lowering defenses. and signaling emotion safely. You're willing to be slightly ridiculous, imperfect, or unexpected because you trust the interaction. There's a type of play creates emotional elasticity, allowing instruction to stay aligned without becoming heavy or intense too quickly. Even certain sexual chemistry also brings emotional clarity instead of confusion. This might sound counterintuitive because many people associate attraction with emotional chaos. Psychology, however, makes a clear distinction. Anxiety creates obsession, while chemistry creates focus. And when chemistry is real, you don't constantly question where you stand. You may not have certainty, but you have coherence. The interaction makes sense emotionally. Signals are consistent, not mixed. This consistency allows attraction to feel exciting without being stabilizing, which is essential for long-term connection. 12. Another subtle but powerful sign is how disagreement feels when chemistry exists. Difference don't immediately trigger defensiveness. Psychology shows that emotional compatibility allows for disagreement without threat. You don't feel the need to win or withdraw. Instead, there's curiosity about the other person's perspective. This keeps polarity alive while maintaining respect. Chemistry thrives when individuality is preserved rather than erased. If you can disagree without emotional shutdown, attraction has a strong psychological foundation. 13. Physical awareness often increases even without touch. You notice posture shifts, proximity, and small movements more than usual. Psychology explains this as a hidden sensory attention driven by attraction. Your body becomes more present. However, this awareness doesn't create urgency. There's restraint paired with desire. This balance is critical. Forced attraction pushes for immediate gratification, while real chemistry enjoys the anticipation. And when restraint feels exciting rather than frustrating, chemistry is operating at the deep level. 14. One of the most overlooked indicators of intense sexual chemistry is how you feel afterward, not during but after. Psychology places a heavy importance on post-interaction emotional states. If you leave feeling calm, centered, and emotionally intact, chemistry is healthy. You're not replaying every word or feeling uneasy. The connection integrates smoothly into your emotional world instead of disrupting it. This grounded after effect is often mistaken for lack of excitement, but in reality, it reflects nervous system compatibility, a rare and powerful component of lasting chemistry. Have you ever met someone where the chemistry was instant and undeniable? Tell us your story. 15. Another strong psychological sign of intense sexual chemistry is emotional regulation in each other's presence. When chemistry is unhealthy or based on insecurity, emotions spike quickly and crash just as fast. But when chemistry is real, emotions feel contained and manageable. Psychology explains there's a two nervous system co-regulation where two people help stabilize each other emotionally without trying. You don't feel overwhelmed or stimulated or emotionally hijacked. Instead, there's a steady sense of engagement. This makes attraction sustainable because your brain doesn't associate the person with stress or instability, but with clarity and emotional balance. 16. You may also notice that validation seeking behavior decreases when sexual chemistry is strong and mutual. You don't constantly look for reassurance through compliments, reactions, or attention. Psychology shows that perceived mutual desire reduces the need for external confirmation, and you feel seen without having to ask for it. There's an internal sense of being acknowledged allows interaction to grow naturally. The absence of validation chasing is often mistaken for lack of interest, but in reality, it signals emotional security, one of the deepest foundations of real chemistry. 17. Another indicator is how easily emotional tone adjusts between you. Serious conversations don't feel heavy, and light moments don't feel shallow. Psychology refers to this as emotional flexibility. Even chemistry is present, both people can shift between depth and playfulness without friction. This adaptability keeps interaction dynamic and engaging. You're not stuck in one emotional mode. The relationship feels alive, responsiveness, and fluid, which increases long-term attraction and prevents stagnation. 18. Mutual respect becomes instinctive rather than negotiated. You don't need to assert boundaries aggressively or test limits to feel valued. Psychology explains that genuine attraction increases empathy and perspective taking. You naturally consider how your words and actions affect the other person. This respect isn't performative, it's embedded in how you interact. When chemistry includes respect, desire doesn't diminish, it intensifies because safety and attraction reinforce each other instead of competing. 19. Another overlooked sign is emotional memory consistency. You remember how the person made you feel more than what they said or did. Psychology shows that emotional impressions last longer than factual ones. When chemistry is strong, interactions lead a stable emotional imprint rather than confusion. You don't romanticize excessively or idealize unrealistically. Instead, your emotional memory feels coherent and grounded. This consistency is what allows interaction to deepen instead of burn out quickly. 20. There's also a noticeable reduction in social fatigue. Spending time together doesn't drain your energy, even during longer interactions. Psychology links this to emotional compatibility and shared pacing. When chemistry is real, you don't feel the need to recover afterward. The interaction feels nourishing rather than depleting. This is a critical distinction because the intense attraction without compatibility often leaves people exhausted instead of fulfilled. 21. Instant sexual chemistry creates emotional presence without possession. You care but you don't cling. Psychology distinguishes this as secure attraction. You enjoy closeness without fearing distance. The person matters to you, but they don't destabilize your sense of self. This balance is rare, and even it exists, chemistry becomes a foundation rather than a distraction. Attraction feels integrated into your life instead of consuming it. Which of these sexual chemistry signs have you actually felt in real life, and how did it hit you? 22. Another undeniable sign of incest sexual chemistry is how natural curiosity replaces control. When attraction is insecure, people try to manage outcomes, impressions, or reactions. Psychology explains that when chemistry is genuine, the need for counterface because trust is already present. You're curious about what unfolds instead of anxious about where is going. This mindset shift is subtle but powerful. It allows attraction to grow without pressure, and it keeps both people emotionally open. Chemistry thrives in curiosity, not in manipulation or fear-based strategies. 23. You may notice that emotional reactions feel proportionate rather than exaggerated. Small misunderstandings don't spiral into emotional emotional distance, and positive moments don't create unrealistic expectations. Psychology highlights this balance as a sign of emotional maturity combined with attraction. When chemistry is real, your emotional responses stay aligned with reality. This keeps the connection grounded and prevents idealization. Desire remains strong, but it's anchored in clarity rather than fantasy. 24. Another psychological marker is how silence functions during moments of closeness. Silence doesn't signal boredom or emotional withdrawal. Instead, it feels shared and intentional. Psychology shows that shared silence reflects mutual nervous system regulation. You're not rushing to fill the space because connection isn't dependent on consistent stimulation. This ability to be quiet together strengthens intimacy far more than non-stop conversation ever could. If this video was useful to you, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next videos. Strong sexual chemistry also increases emotional accountability, and you become more aware of how your actions affect the other person, not out of obligation but out of care. Psychology links this to increased empathy during interaction. You don't wanna harm the emotional tone of the connection because it matters to you. This accountability creates stability, which allows chemistry to deepen instead of collapsing under inconsistency. 26. Another sign is how anticipation feels. You look forward to interactions, but you're not consumed by them. Psychology distinguishes anticipation from obsession by emotional regulation. When chemistry is healthy, anticipation adds excitement without disrupting focus or self-respect. You continue living your life fully, and attraction becomes an enhancement rather than a distraction. This balance keeps a desire alive long term. 27. You may also notice that communication feels efficient. You don't over-explain yourself, and misunderstandings are resolved quickly. Psychology explains this through emotional attunement and mutual respect. When chemistry is present, both people want understanding, not dominance. This keeps emotional friction low and connection strong. 28. Finally, strong chemistry often brings a sense of emotional alignment rather than emotional dependency. You feel connected, not incomplete, without the other person. Psychology shows that real attraction enhances the identity instead of replacing it. You remain grounded in how you are while enjoying the bond. This independence within connection is one of the clearest indicators that sexual chemistry is real, sustainable, and psychologically healthy. Thank you for taking the time to the full watch. Take care of yourself a lot. I'll see you tomorrow.